Boyfriend, baby.
Welcome to the very first issue of the Comic Book Horror Show, starring me, Ricky Grimes, alongside my boy Joe the Psychologist. This one is going to be a bit different, as you can see. Me and Joe, huge comic book fans, and that goes for JR as well. But this one here, we're going to try things a little bit different. Before we get started, though, Joe the Psychologist, what's up? Tell us a little bit more about your passion for books in case the fans of Horror Fiend TV are not aware.
Dude, first of all, I had so many comic series. I had The Fall of the Mutants, I had Inferno, I had Death of Superman, and then there was a hurricane that hit Connecticut and my mom's basement got flooded. JR and Beto's books, all of our books got destroyed. You have no idea how many comics we had, but yeah, I actually, Adam hates me because the guest room closet is filled with boxes of comic books right now, and I'm going back to them again. But yeah, I've been collecting comics, God, since the 80s.
We both grew up with horror and comics.
Yep.
Side by side, hand in hand. I mean,
Yep.
They go like peanut butter and jelly because, let me tell you, some of the best stories ever written, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, I'm looking at you, it's horror related, bro.
Yeah.
And it's just, it don't get enough love. So fuck it. We got a horror channel. There's horror books. There's horror movies that are based off comic books. Let's do it. So this is going to be your first episode. For me personally, I grew
First
up
issue.
First issue. I'm a Marvel fan. Joe will self-admittedly. You see, so this is interesting here. I always said it. Spider-Man, I grew up with Spider-Man. He will always have a place in my heart as my favorite guy because that's what got me into books. I got so much of the books from the 70s and 80s and 90s that were passed down from my brother, and I collected many of those, obviously, going into the 90s and the 2000s. But Moon Knight was always my favorite guy because 1992, I believe, is when I discovered Moon Knight through the Topps trading cards, the Marvel, not Marvel Masterpieces. It was before that, Marvel Selects, or I forgot what it was called, but trading cards. And I saw this guy leaping off of a building wearing all white, and I'm like, fuck, who is this dude? That's all I needed to know. Next thing I know, I bought a Spider-Man comic. He was a guest star in it. I was like, I know this guy from the cards. And that's it. But, yeah, man, so this is going to be fun. So, Joe, you ready to get this started, brother?
Oh, I sure fucking am.
And it can't be a horror film video without me. We all cheer for big bottles of beer. Salute, Joe. All right. Is it the funny books, kid?
Even though there will be some comic book based ones, that this is the one that was not a comic book first. However, it would make a fucking awesome comic book.
I mean, if you're aware, this film is kind of based on a pretty important superhero in comics. I would say if it wasn't for this particular superhero, there wouldn't be any superhero comics to the extent and level that we have today. So let's go. We will be discussing the 2019 film Brightburn, directed by David Yarovesky. This is written by Brian Gunn and Mark Gunn, with some production credits to the man James Gunn. It stars Elizabeth Banks as Tori Breyer, David Denman as Kyle Breyer, and Jackson A. Dunn as Brandon Breyer. Joe, Brightburn. When you first heard about this film and you kind of got the idea what it was about, what was your first reaction to that, bro?
Dude, I was actually really excited for it, to be honest with you. First of all, a horror take on Superman, like the origin of Superman. Like, as you said, Superman is pretty much where it all got started from. So to have a evil take. Now, we did have that with Red Son, and it wasn't necessarily evil. You know, let's just clarify that. You know, you have, I think he's Ultraman in the Crime Syndicate. So there is an evil Superman in existence in the multiverse.
Hyperion too, but
Hyperion is a Marvel version.
But he's evil. Was he? No, he's
Actually,
not.
yeah.
He's
Well,
not.
no. Squadron Supreme.
But
We're kind of teeter between
they weren't
evil and good.
evil, right? Would you say?
No, they
It's
weren't.
not like
They
Homelander
fought.
evil, right?
They fought the event. They did fight the Avengers.
Yeah.
But they were supposed to be a superhero team, just
Yep.
a little bit more questionable compared to the Avengers.
Right.
But yeah, no, dude, I was super excited. Obviously, yes, when I saw that James Gunn was attached to it, knowing how much of a comic book fan he is, yes, his brothers wrote the story. I don't necessarily think he would just go ahead and attach himself to something just because his brothers are the writers. I feel like he's actually that much of a professional.
I was just gonna choose that word. He's a professional.
He is. He's a professional. So for them writing the story, because as we all know, he's doing Superman Legacy. He put his name on this. He produced it. So yeah, I was all on board. First view, wasn't a whole fan of it. This was the fourth time I watched it, and when I was watching it yesterday, I messaged you and I said, "Bro, this movie's dope."
I had told you I've seen this movie twice now. Once in the theater, and the first time I saw it, I told you I was like, I wasn't feeling it. Not that I hated it. I think I expected more out of it. But now that I
Same.
saw it the second time, my expectations weren't there anymore because now I want to see it with a clean slate. Now I understood the movie for what it was. I still wish it was a little bit more extra, but I enjoyed it more the second time. So we'll dig into that. Man, the first thought, bro, what you thought about this film? You said you saw it 4 times now. The first time you saw it, let's go off of that first, and then gradually go into how you feel about it now.
Like, I thought that it would do like most superheroes movies do. We see them as young and then go into old. And it didn't do that. Rewatching it again was a huge positive for the movie, to be honest with you. I was expecting just a little bit like more superhero stuff, but then I realized it's not really a superhero movie. This is a horror movie. It's a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
So on my second watch, my third watch, getting the horror element, but again, watching it last night, and I guess last night, except for a little, it was a little bit more clarity when I watched it. So I really got to appreciate it. Elizabeth Banks did an amazing job actually with the fucking role, and that little kid, what's his name again?
Jackson A. Dunn.
Yeah,
Brandon Breyer.
He did such a great job. Like, that kid probably could have gotten some other horror movie roles involving a kid as a killer. Like
the facials,
dude,
you got packed.
Oh my god, he was
so
much. Cold. And my favorite scene, honestly, was that way I don't have to wait till the end. And giving, going from my first thought when I first saw it. No one else
will probably forget anyway. So
well, no, what I'm saying, but going from my first thought where I wasn't a huge fan of it, I wanted more. And then rewatching him again, when I watched it last night, one of my favorite parts was when he was talking to his aunt, who happened to be his guidance counselor.
Yeah,
and said, "Well, your parents said you feel a certain way about being adopted." He goes, "No, I'm good. I realized that I'm not really from the," and I'm paraphrasing here, but he's like, "I'm not from this shit town. I'm superior."
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's kind of like. Can you imagine if Superman
already
if Superman all of a sudden goes, "I can fuck all you people up"?
And he
could have, but he never did. But this was different because it showed you that, he was not going to be Superman. He was literally going to, I'm so much better than all you guys, and I'm going to kill you all.
One thing I would say, I wish they would have delved deeper into his origins. We know he came out on a spaceship, obviously. We heard the demonic voices. Obviously, he's got demonic energy in him. I don't just think it's just, look at the symbol, for example. He kept writing it everywhere on his notepad. Crazy-ass artwork and the symbols, again, all over the place. That's not the sign of some guy that's saying, I'm just going to be a villain. I mean, the voice he was hearing was some entity or something telling him, no, this is who you are. You're going to, what was that? Take over the world or take the world?
Take the world.
Take the world. So
take the world.
Something is speaking to him, and those voices didn't sound friendly at all. It sounded more like demonic in a sense, and that's how I took it. I kind of wish I want to know more where he came from. that world seems very fucking interesting. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of wish the movie delved a little bit deeper into that.
Unlike everything we've been seeing with DC and Marvel, this actually, you know what? We do see them in the movies, but they're just brief to explain the villain's reasoning. This was the origin story of a villain. Like it wasn't put into a superhero story origin to give you the villain. This was the starting of a villain. So I thought that just again all around it was great storytelling. Fucking special effects were awesome.
They were good.
Dude.
Let me ask you a question. So his powers didn't awaken until he hit puberty. Is that what it was?
It's what it looked like. And
he
didn't. Well, actually, no, here's the thing though. Wrong. Because sorry, not to say wrong, but
you're good.
Because when the dad, what was the dad's name again?
Kyle.
When Kyle was talking to Tori, he reminded her he's never been cut, he's never broken a bone, he's never been sick.
Nothing.
So it's just that Brandon had never done anything for him to realize. So it wasn't until the lawnmower scene where he's getting all aggravated, all of a sudden he flings it over into the sky that he realized that he's got powers. And then he goes and puts his hand into there. Then he's like, oh shit. So I just flung this.
I was asking because he said he didn't start hearing the voices up until now. I'm assuming because that's when he started sleepwalking and he was being lured into the barn where her spaceship was.
Yes,
it was being gravitated towards that.
12 or 13?
12. He was 12. So about when he hit puberty. That's why. That's why.
Right before puberty. So,
yep.
So I mean, the way I took the voice instead of it really being demonic was because he was sent there from his race to destroy Earth. So it was just him hearing his instructions. Yeah. Like basically, because he's sitting there, the thing lit up, and then he starts having a seizure. After he's laying there still, he opens his eyes are red. So it was basically as if he got to the age where he could be strong enough to do all this, and he was awakened for his mission.
Did you catch the wasp analogy? Between
yes, oh yeah.
So when he was talking about wasps was the predators obviously, and they're the only species that allows other species to nurture their young until further instructions. Mm-hmm. Almost like the Briars took this alien species and nurtured him until he got his further instructions. Now he's going to take over the world. So
and they never one thing they kind of didn't explain, because you were talking about the symbols, was because it was actually Brandon Briars backwards.
Yeah.
So, could the symbols have been from his race, or because of his name, or
what's his real name? We don't know that.
Right? We don't know what his real name. That could be his real name. That literally could have been his real name. That symbol could have been his name.
Well, I wish there was more of a body count, but watching it again and seeing what was on screen was pretty damn effective. Pretty effective, yeah. I would say. I forgot how gory this movie could have.
Oh my god,
the gore that was in it. Let's talk about it. Fuck it, dude. Let's discuss the horror elements of this right now. First of all, one of my favorite scenes upon watching it again was when the glass shattered. She got all the shards of glass on her, and she had that one shard in her eye. Let me ask you: would you be able to pull that thing out like she did?
No.
I would be afraid. I would pull my whole eye out.
No, and I'm not even gonna lie. It's funny. Normally, I flip out when people take some of the stuff I'm gonna say, but this time I'm not, because you mentioned it. When that scene happened, dude, I was crawling on the sofa. Bro. I'm literally I'm moving because I wear glasses, I wear contacts, so I touch my eyes. I can feel like an eyelash in your eye when you wear contacts feels like you have got a bunch of sand in there.
Yes,
and the thought it took forever just to pop a contact in, let alone, and that shard was long,
bro. Now, and she's pulling it very slowly at that. That was and what I did too, after she removed it, I love the POV shots of her vision all fucked up
with the one eye.
I like that. That was cool.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because in that scene, and if you notice, a lot of times when he was going to show up, electricity would be affected. So besides strength, he had technopathy and electrokinesis.
Yes.
He was affecting the electricity, and he was able to make that thing shatter and get in her eye. So it showed you another power that fucking Brandon had here, and it was done great. I mean, to make a light bulb fucking burst and then get in your eye the way it did, that scene was...
Bro, there's one thing I was saying, horror movies, one thing that makes me squirm is anything in your eye. Lucio Fulci's zombie, when that zombie broke through the door and he's grabbing the lady's head and pulling her into the fucking large splinter, and it slowly goes into her eye. And here, you didn't see it go in, but you knew once the glass shattered and you saw it, and she goes like this. I'm like, oh my god, it has to be in her eyes. And you saw that one shard. It looked so realistic. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't like a huge shard. It was very minimal, but
it was long. It was fucking like, it wasn't like a piece got in there. She's literally, you're like, but the other really good kill scene, which I feel that this is where the brothers got James involved in, was a twisted take on Superman's action comic scene where he lifts up the car. So in this one, he, instead of lifting up the car, he just picked it up and flew it up and just held it up. Dude, when he dropped that down, and the guy, I can't remember his name, but I know he was in Mom and
Breaking Bad. Badger, but Matt Jones. Right. That's the actor.
Dude, when his mouth landed on the steering wheel, and you saw his, like, and then after that, he's like trying to...
The best part was when he grabbed his jaw and put it back in, and then when he dies, his hand falls, and it just...
Yeah.
That's what I was like, damn, I forgot how gory this movie got. This is my biggest pet peeve, that the fact that it did do poorly, and they started building a world I want to be a part of. I want to know more about it. I want to see Brandon as an adult, as a legit adult. I want to see how strong he can get, because we don't really get that. He's young, he's still learning the ropes, but obviously he took on a whole fucking plane. So I mean, this guy is evil incarnate in a sense, but I want to see what he could do. Imagine he's a kid now doing all this shit. When he's an adult, what the world must look like. So I'm curious about this. So I kind of wish I knew about that. Now, since it's a comic book movie, and at its heart, I kind of wish this, if they couldn't make a sequel for it because it bombed, then they should have made a book for it. What I'm trying to get at, if this was made into a comic book series, would you read it? Me personally, I'll answer it quickly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because who doesn't want... You mentioned Red Sun. We got that. But we never got it at this graphic level.
No.
So it's more... I mean, you got Tori and Kyle, who I love. Obviously, Elizabeth Banks. Huge fan of her. The actor who played Kyle. I loved it. Big burly guy. You don't really see that much in movies. I love this character. One thing I did not like is when he took a shot at Brandon later. Again,
it was a hard decision he had to make.
It was.
Tori didn't know he was going to do that either.
No. And she tried the same shit later too.
Well,
you know you can't cut this guy. What are you doing? But I digress. As a comic series, if they were gonna make more movies, they should have took it to... Dude. They should have took it to the printed medium, because I would be all over it. I want to know more about where he came from, and I want to know what he becomes.
Same, dude. I literally, I mean, I collected Justice League Dark. You know, if we decide we're going to do Swamp Thing, I collected Swamp Thing.
The Alan Moore book?
No, actually, I did do the New 52. Yes. But I collected it before the New 52 also, which made Swamp Thing part of the green, like part more of the universe. Anyway, I can keep going on.
If you want legit, I'm not even lying, like top tier comic book storytelling at its finest, grab any of our viewers, Alan Moore Swamp Thing run.
Yes,
bro,
one of the best ones.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
I had that. Dude, that hurricane destroyed so many of my. You have no idea. Like, it hurts sometimes. Like, I'll be on CBR, and you know they talk about like the best stories, and I'm like, I had that book. Like, I literally had that book. Like, man, I'm so like, and like, And I was one of those comic collectors that I bought 2 issues of the books.
I did that sometimes.
One that went into the sleeve
and one
that was not going to get touched again, and one that I read.
See, I did that with books I had a feeling will become valuable later on. But the problem is, after Carnage, comic books and the mainstream stopped creating new characters. Because if you think about it, after Carnage, he was like 92 around there. Which major character that's super popular now came out after that?
Actually, you're right. Not many.
That's it. Because once all the major creators left Marvel and went to Image, Marvel didn't create anything, bro. If you want to call Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, but come on, bro. Let's be real, man. Let's close this bad boy up with Joe. Do you think Brendan Byer, the alliterative name they gave him, was that on purpose to be more on the comic book side? You know, Peter Parker, Clark Kent, Matt Murdock. You think that was done on purpose?
Oh yeah,
right.
I mean that. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's totally.
100%.
It's totally. It's a name you can remember. Like if
Another
you're gonna
thing,
talk about comic book person, yeah, totally.
If you notice in the beginning of the film, it starts with a shot of the mailbox, the Briars. Every time the movie progresses, it goes and until the very end, it starts deteriorating until it's like fucking like rusted out and like unkept. You notice that shit, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty cool. So let's wrap it up, brother. I'm gonna go to you first. Now, this rating system is gonna be a bit different. We're gonna go. This is a comic book show.
Yeah, if you don't know your comic book, you know what? We're not gonna explain it to you guys.
No, you should know this.
Look it up.
We're not gatekeeping, but you should know this.
Yeah. Look it up. Look it up. So we're gonna have a rating that if you're a comic book person, you should know what we're doing.
Joe, what's the ratings? Don't give us your rating for this yet, but give us the rating scale we're gonna be working with this.
All right. So we're going 1 through 4 instead of to 5. 4 being the best. That is an alpha. 3 is beta. 2 is delta, and 1 is epsilon. So that is our rating systems. If you don't know your fucking shit on superheroes, mutants, then go look it up. That way you know what we're rating it.
And mutants are coming, so you best catch up on that.
All right, I'm gonna admit it was biased on me picking this as the first one we're doing in the series because we'll see if anybody else after this lived up to it. This was a great, at least for me, comic book horror movie. It had all the elements of superpowers. What was it? Telekinesis, technopathy. We have superhuman strength, flight. It's kind of weird because I kind of feel that
eye lasers, bro.
The lasers, dude. When he burned his father's fucking face off, now we know what Superman can actually do.
to you know anybody.
So when he was levitating, I kind of always questioned on the levitating part being part of the flight part. I always thought that was kind of another different superpower. But like again, this kid had a variety of superhuman powers. The way that the horror was done in this movie, him popping up in the little girl's room, the curtain flaps and he's gone.
Closet. Which was kind of funny though.
Oh, it was great though. I mean, the way he stalked her mother.
They took Superman and made him scary.
It's one of those things again where the movie is not perfect. Because for me, I kind of didn't understand why he went after Tori except for that one final scene when she figured out that I'm going to have to fucking kill him because the only thing that can penetrate him is a piece from the ship that he came from. She loved him.
Oh, that was a piece of the ship that she...
Yeah, that's what she took. So when he fell through,
yes,
he cut his hand.
Yeah, cut.
And that's when she cut her hand the same way, she goes, it can cut him. Yep. So she went to the barn. And he didn't even know that's what she was doing. I don't think that he thought that she figured out that I can go in there and get it. When he takes Tori up to space, and I'm sitting there going, like, her breath is going to go out.
She would have suffocated.
I thought the same thing. Like, the suffocating, I'm like, she's going to freeze.
Or freeze or blow up.
And then he just lets her go.
Lets her go.
It's like going, well, that's like Superman. Like, what if you get into an argument with Superman?
You don't want to get to
a lover's spat with Superman. He's gonna.
That was Soups. That was Soups.
Oh, really, motherfucker? Watch this.
What's interesting too is that he took his dad's body, Kyle, and he threw him into that debris, because they mentioned at the end the bodies of his parents, with Kyle and Tori, were discovered deceased.
Yes. So because he thought enough to use the plane as a way of showing that the plane was the reason of all the destruction, because he killed the police officers.
Yep.
Even though they were calling for help. Oh, dude, when he fucking the sheriff, like when he was fucking,
he turned that guy into fucking mush.
Dude, he was splattered. Like, I'm like, oh shit. But you know, again, the use of superhuman powers when he's flying through the house. And
that was dope.
Oh my god, it was
very dope.
This was what you can visualize a dark superhero comic book being like. Watching it, like I said, 4 times. This one's an alpha for me.
Nice.
I thoroughly love this movie.
I remember you've always told me though you loved it, and I was like, but we'll get to that again.
Well, no, like I said, now that we decided we were going to do this, where we were going to do a show involving comic book and the horror comic books, you look at it in a different view. But when I rewatched it last night, I didn't rewatch it in a comic book. I actually rewatched it in the horror element, and it would be basically when Richard Donner did Superman. If he decided that he was going to make Superman be dark and evil, it's what he would have actually pulled off.
Yeah. And I love the ending, by the way. Michael Rooker's cameo. You mentioned that earlier. It's funny because you got Aquaman, Wonder Woman, obviously Soups, obviously
Superman. So you got the Trinity.
But there was another.
There was one that was kind of like Batman.
Martian Manhunter, maybe, I'm not sure. But 1000% Super was in there as an Easter egg. Have you seen Super?
No, not yet.
Brother, James Gunn directed that.
That's Rainn Wilson, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Rainn Wilson.
Rainn Wilson is about an everyday guy who just decides to make his own costume and try and fight crime. Great fucking film.
I know, but I love Kick-Ass. So
you'll love this then, because this is Kick-Ass but R-rated. Oh, Kick-Ass was R-rated.
Yeah, Kick-Ass was R-rated. Kick-Ass was pretty fucking R-rated.
No, but Super felt R-rated.
All right.
Kick-Ass felt Hollywood.
I'll check that out.
Super felt like a bunch of guys that love horror. They love comics. They love violence and gore. They got together. Fuck it, we don't care.
And that was a Gunn movie?
James Gunn directed that.
What?
Wait, yes, James Gunn. Michael Rooker's in that film. I mean, James Gunn puts his people in this. I didn't notice until now. Michael Rooker got a cameo.
I texted you after I was done. Yeah. I'm like, and it's funny because I'm like, Michael Rooker's at the end. And I'm like, fuck, he's gonna kill me because I'm like, wait, no, he saw this movie, so I'm not ruining anything for him. But yeah, you didn't even realize it yourself.
Yeah, Michael Rooker's in it. I mean, his wife, Jennifer Holland, she's in this film too as the teacher. I didn't know that upon first viewing, obviously. I mean, of course, Elizabeth Banks, who was in Slither. I'm gonna give it a beta. This is a beta for me. Right. It's still not perfect because I want to know more. And the fact that, unfortunately, because you mentioned the box office wasn't strong, they may not continue the story. But I want to see Brandon as an adult sitting on his throne with the world burning around him. And I want to see who's going to come in and step to this guy.
I did like that it was kept as a child. And I did like at the end, you saw everything he was doing still as a child. So, like, I because, again, we're all so used to seeing the origin story as a child. And then we jump forward to them being an adult. And this one didn't do it.
Oh, no.
So that's my other little positive for an origin story in a comic book where we didn't leap forward to him as an adult. It was contained as a child and him being a child.
No humor. It's a dark film.
Except for that. Nope.
That's about in the closet scene. In the closet, when he turns around, the guy sitting there with his... What are you doing? Get the fuck out of here, you little weirdo. But that's gonna do it for this debut episode of the Comic Book Horror Show, Horror Fiend TV. I'm Bricky Grimes, Joe the Psychologist. Call back next week to find out what we will be discussing as a funny book turned horror. Come back. Stay scared!